Here we are again out at the chicken coops at a frugal homestead. Today, as you can tell, it's a pretty blustery day, which signals that winter is coming. We've already had one snowfall this year, and they're predicting an additional snowfall later this week, which really means winter is here. So today what I thought I'd do is share 5 tips to get your chickens ready for winter. Stay tuned throughout the video. I'll share my thoughts and tips for keeping your chickens warm during the winter, and as far as if supplemental heating into your chicken coop is a good idea or not. Tip number 1 has to do with the water. Water is huge for chickens. The average hen will drink about 2.5 cups of water a day. What we always want to do is make sure our chickens have ample supply of water and keep it thawed and free from ice. So when we first started out, we used a lot of troughs that looked like this, and they worked fine, except for when it started to freeze. We were constantly having to go outside and break up the ice and add new water, which worked well when we had a smaller flock. But gradually, as our flock began to grow, what we ended up doing is buying some submersible heaters that we could drop directly into the water that would make it so we wouldn't have to constantly be checking on the water to make sure that there wasn't ice. So I still think that the trough is a fine idea if you have a small flock and you're willing to constantly go out and check on them. But you may want to end up purchasing a small submersible de-icer. As our flock continued to grow and we've added more and more coops, we needed something that was even better and bigger. Obviously, chickens will drink quite a bit of water, as we've discussed already, and so we needed something that could handle a larger capacity of water. That's when we came up with these 5-gallon watering fountains. I have a whole video on how to make one if you're interested in doing so, but that still doesn't answer the question, how do you keep them free from ice? What we've found are these little heat discs that will go directly underneath them that work perfectly. The nice thing about these 5-gallon watering buckets that we have is that it limits the access to the chickens as far as how much of their body they can actually get into it. So I'm sure, as you're well aware, if they have full access, that water's not going to stay clean long. But with this, it allows them to get their head in, and that's about it. This has been awesome for our homestead. Adding the heat plate just makes it even that much better. So feel free to take a look at that video when you're done watching this one on how to make one. So that's tip number 1. So the second thing is keeping your chickens dry and out of the mud. Mud is something that chickens will naturally create as they begin to dig around, especially after long periods of snow or rain like we have here. Here in southern Idaho, it's not uncommon in the winter time for the mud to never completely dry out. And as a result, we've had to come up with ways to keep them out of the mud. We did have one time a chicken that got completely covered in mud, and as a result started going through what we thought was probably hypothermia. We ended up having to get her dried off and put her by the fire for the entire day in order for her to come back out of what it was. So what we've done to kind of counteract that is come up with a solution that's going to both keep them out of the mud as well as help to keep them dry. What we have are wood chips. Wood chips inside the coop and especially around the run where there are high traffic areas are not only going to help keep your chickens dry and out of the mud, but they're also going to help keep the mud off of your boots, which is an added benefit. Now, the run's not the only place that needs to be dry for the chickens, but the inside of the coop as well. It also needs to be sealed up, but also have plenty of ventilation. A lot of times you'll see people using pine shavings, which I think are great, but we've found that actually using the same wood chips actually seems to do a better job. Not only does it allow us to continue to pile additional ones on top of it, but they're very easy to turn, and in turning them, it continues to make it so that the coop stays dry. This brings us to tip number 3, roosting at a higher level. During the winter months especially, chickens will naturally want to be warmer. You'll notice that we have several layers of roost. We have one roost here on the bottom, and actually up in the rafters we have additional roost. The reason that we have the 2 levels is to give the chickens an option. You'll notice in the winter months that your chickens will always try to get to a higher level, and that is because heat rises. Tip number 4 is all about increasing your chicken's body temperature through the grains that you feed them. Here at a frugal homestead, especially in the winter, we add additional amounts of corn to the chicken's feed. Corn is a higher calorie grain, and as a result produces more energy for the chickens in the wintertime, thus allowing them to burn more calories naturally and increase their body temperature. And now for a bonus tip. Quite frequently, people will ask us, do I need to add supplemental heat such as a heat lamp or heat plate to the coop? And quite honestly, the answer is no. For most breeds, including Barred Rocks, Rhode Island Reds, Americanas, as well as the majority of your varieties of Leghorns, they do not require any supplemental heat. In fact, their natural body temperature is about 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Their feathers provide a natural barrier against the cold as well as locking in their body heat. By providing supplemental heat, you may actually be doing more harm than good. Adding supplemental heat will reduce their ability to regulate their own body temperature. Let's say, for example, the coop is 70 degrees with your heat lamp added in. Once those chickens step outside and it's no longer 70 degrees, their bodies cannot regulate quickly enough to get them back to the warm temperature. So again, as long as you're feeding them the correct feed during the winter months and they have a nice dry place to get out of the elements, additional heat is not something that is necessary. Tip number 5 is all about reducing exposure of your chickens to predators. Here at Frugal Homestead, some of the issues that we have are foxes and coyotes. What we do is put up this electric netting, and we also reduce the amount of time that each one of our flocks is exposed to potential predators outside. We limit which chickens are able to be out roaming during the day, thus preventing their exposure to any unwanted predators. For the most part, we keep them locked up, especially during the late or evening hours. This year, our most vulnerable coop, we have added an extra layer of protection, an automatic chicken coop door. Since the mobile coop does not have an attached or secure run, adding an automatic chicken coop door has been a great addition. It has allowed us not only to prevent unwanted animals from getting in during the night, but it has also allowed us to control when our hens can exit the coop in the morning. There you have it, the 5 tips to help you get your chickens ready for winter this season. I hope you found this video helpful. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing to our channel and also leave a like. If you have any questions or other comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Until next time, thanks for watching.